and welcome to this Google Hangout on Air. Today we're going to be talking about we're having a study huddle about the display exam. So welcome to those of you who've been along to one of these before, and to those of you who are new, welcome to you as well. Great to have you around. The aim of this session is to go through as much as I can in an hour about passing the display exam, in the hope that by the end of it you'll feel comfortable and ready to take the display exam yourselves. If you've done one of the other exams, it's very much in the same sort of format, but it's quite a long one actually, is one thing I would say. It's got a lot of questions, and so do be ready for that. Let's get started, and please do remember that you can ask questions if anything comes up and you want to ask a question, just by typing something in the page, in the event page, and I will see that and try and answer those questions at the end. So please do ask any questions you have as we go along. Just to introduce myself, my name's Lucy Johnson and I run a small agency called Bread and Butter Marketing. I also do this training on behalf of another company called AdWords. My background is I spent 7 years working at Google, mostly in AdWords, supporting UK agencies, and then managing the Italian team, and then moving on to working at YouTube. I now help out doing training sessions like this, trying to get as many people through the AdWords exams as possible. Right, so I'll just move on to the agenda. So there are 5 areas we're going to cover today. One, we're going to talk a little bit about what the display network is. I know some of you may have used it extensively already, but for others it may be something new that you want to try out, and you want to do the exam in order to feel ready to try it out with some of your clients. So we'll talk a bit about what that is. We'll talk about how to set up a display network campaign. We'll then talk about showing your ads on the display network. We'll talk about researching your audiences, because obviously on the display network you've got a whole lot more opportunities for targeting other than just your standard search keywords, which is what you may have been used to up till now. Lastly, as with everything Google, we're going to talk about measuring and optimizing performance, because setting it up is just step one. There's always then the ability to improve, measure, find out how it's doing, and improve again on how it's been going. So what is the display network? If we've put our ads on one of those sites, if someone then comes along and as advertisers will pay, and the money that we paid to Google gets split between Google and the owner of the site on which the ad was shown. So it's quite a good way for businesses to monetize sites, or for bloggers just to make a little bit of extra money, or for large companies who've got huge sites, maybe to make some money on the pages that premium advertisers may not wish to pay to advertise on. So it suits everything, and what's great about it from an advertiser's point of view is that it means we get access to put ads on a huge range of sites, and we don't have to wait for someone to come to Google and decide that they want our product or service. We can go out and reach those people while they're consuming, reading the news, while they're watching a video, while they're reading their email. We can reach them at those critical points. The other exciting part of the display network from an advertising point of view is that we're not simply limited to text ads. On the search network, on Google, the vast majority of ads are text-based, which for display advertisers, brand advertisers, may not be as exciting. Images, rich media, video, all sorts of other formats that allow advertisers to show off their product perhaps a little bit more than you can with a standard text ad. You get options through the display network. There are things that you're able to reach 90% of internet users worldwide, and it includes more than 2 million publisher sites. One benefit for using the Google Display Network, so this is something you might want to remember for the exam, is that it has it's such an expansive network of diverse sites, and this allows users who are using other ad networks to fill niche gaps, as well as mass-marketed sites through AdWords targeting options. We'll talk a lot more about the targeting options available on the Display Network and the different ad formats, but for now, that's a sort of an introduction to the Display Network. Let's move on. And a question I get asked a lot about when I talk to people about the Display Network is, how do ads compete? So one of the if it's not, please put another comment and I'll see if I can think about it. One of the advantages of the Display Network is that you have other sorts of bidding options. So for brand advertisers, something that can be really important is advertising on an impression basis, so you pay for the number of times your ad is seen rather than the number of times that your ad is clicked on. So that you have the opportunity to bid in different ways, in ways which makes more sense for one particular advertiser. So the question I get asked a lot is, which ads wins? So if you've got an ad that's running on the Display Network and it's running a placement ad, for example, and it's bidding on a cost per 1,000 impression basis, how does that compete with an ad that's running on a cost per click basis? So this table that I've brought up next explains that quite nicely. So AdWords uses an ad auction to determine which ads to show and the order in which those ads appear and how much those ads will cost. Ads will be ranked among other advertisers' ads based on the ad rank as it is on the standard search network, which is based on your maximum CPC bid or your CPM bid and your quality score. So say we have 3 advertisers, Alice, Bob and Charlie. Alice's maximum CPC bid is £3 and her quality score is 10. Bob and Charlie Bob has got the same CPC bid and a lower quality score, and Charlie has got a much lower bid and a same quality score as Alice. So what will happen in this scenario is that Alice's ad will be shown, Bob and Charlie's will not be. Alice's ad will fill the entire ad slot on that particular place on that site. I hope the sound is better. Do please let me know if it's not. So with the Display Network, some people ask, so is the quality score the same as it is with the search network? It's not quite the same. It's comprised, the quality score on the Display Network is made up of the expected click-through rate, the ad relevance and the landing page experience. So it can be a little bit different to the search network. One thing to note is that the landing page experience includes the download speed of the page. So if a page takes too long to download, your customer may leave the site without doing anything, and this can negatively affect quality score. Another thing to be aware of on the Display Network is making sure that your ad's call to action is above the fold. And above the fold means that part of the page that doesn't require a user to scroll down, otherwise you may not see it. Let's keep moving on. So one of the things that you might find when you first set up an AdWords account, a new AdWords campaign, is that you might end up with a campaign type called Search Network with Display Select. It's a relatively new campaign type. It used to be that all campaigns were automatically opted into the Google Search Network and the Google Display Network. Now, this is no longer the case. It's now all by default a campaign is opted into Search Network with Display Select, which means that ads will show against a particular part of the Display Network, not all of it. So it means that in this case, for a new advertiser, ads can appear when people search for terms on the Google search and the search partner sites that match keywords, but they can also appear on relevant pages on the Google Display Network. So ads are shown selectively and the bidding is automated. So this is something that doesn't give a new advertiser a whole lot of control over where their ads are being shown, but it does mean that their ads have got more chance of getting more clicks and more impressions if they're just starting out. Now, for those of you who are more experienced, you maybe turn this off by default because you're so used to running search campaigns and display campaigns. And I think Google would agree that if you're experienced, then there's a lot of benefit in running search campaigns separately to display campaigns, because often you've got a very different goal, a very different reason for running them. You might be hoping for a display campaign to raise awareness of a new product. With search, you might be trying to drive sales of that particular product. So the two things, they're similar, but they're not the same. So running two separate campaigns, you might want different budget, you might want different targeting options. So it makes a lot of sense to keep those separate. What they'll argue, though, is that for a brand new advertiser who doesn't understand very much about this, Display Select can be a good sort of middle ground. One thing just to sort of be aware of on the display network is that you can also run text ads. So it can be beneficial to include a text ad in the same ad group as image ads when advertising on the display network, and that just makes you sure you get maximum coverage, because some publishers don't accept image ads or video ads. So having a text ad is a good thing to do. One other feature of the Display Select is that if an advertiser, if you can imagine, the advertiser sets up a brand new campaign, brand new ad group, doesn't really know what they're doing with AdWords, and they will have a text ad which is then going to run across the Google Display Select sites. Now, in that case, what Google wants is that for those ads to look as compelling as possible. So sometimes what they do is that they append to the standard text ad an image, a stock image, usually, if they can work out what type of so say, for example, your client was wedding dresses. Google may well add to the standard text ad an image of a bride in a wedding dress. So that's something just to bear in mind, a sort of little perk of using this feature. Now, the next slide I've got is a sample question. So those of you who've been on these before will know that to try and help you get into the mindset of passing the exam and doing the exam, I put in a few quick slides just to give you a question that's not identical to one of the ones in the exam, but is very similar, and it will hopefully get you thinking in the way and get you used to the sort of questions that Google asks. So what happens when a CPM placement, so this is an advertiser who's bidding on a cost per thousand basis. CPM is short for cost per thousand impressions. This advertiser is paying for impressions rather than clicks. So any clicks that they get on their ad will be free, but they're bidding on a CPM rather than a CPC basis, which is the more standard way of doing it if you're used to doing search campaigns. So what happens when a CPM placement targeted ad is competing with a keyword targeted ad, and the placement targeted CPM ad wins the auction? So the quality score and the bid means that CPM placement ad wins the auction. So there are 4 options, and the whole exam is based on multiple choice like this. Is the answer both ads will appear with the placement CPM ad at the top? Or is it that both ads will appear with a keyword targeted ad at the top? Or is the answer number 3, placement targeted ads will be the placement targeted ad will be the only one to appear in the ad unit? Or number 4, the keyword targeted ad will show only? So hopefully from the previous slide, you'll remember that the ad that wins the auction gets the entire ad slot. So the answer to this one is that the placement targeted ad will be the only one to appear in the ad unit. Number 3 is the correct answer. Let's move on to the next section. We're going to talk about setting up a display network campaign. So how do you go about setting up a campaign? When you create the campaign, when you go through the campaign wizard for creating a new campaign, you'll go to the AdWords interface, click on the big red button plus campaign, and it will then ask you to choose a marketing objective. So you can choose from building awareness, from influencing consideration, or from driving an action. And if you select any of those, Google will automatically adjust the settings of those campaigns to the settings that they think are most suitable for these aims. The other option you can do is select no marketing objective, and that means that you're left with all the options of every campaign type, so that you can then choose them yourself. You set your budget, your ad scheduling, and your bid type and other settings in this workflow as well. So you have the option to choose the budget as you would for any other campaign, and you choose how you're going to bid. Are you going to bid on a CPC, cost per click, or a CPM, cost per thousand impression basis? If you were going to go with one of these marketing objectives, the possibility to build awareness would be allowing you to introduce customers to what you offer. You might target all potential customers, and that might run ads across the whole web. If you're looking to drive action, though, you might want to be getting new customers to actually make a call to you or buy your product online. Those are the customers who are much further on in the cycle, and they're the ones who are actually ready to decide what they want, ready to buy then. And these are those sorts of ads you might want to ask the customers to act now, buy now, call us, that sort of thing. As with other campaigns, at this level, you'll set things like your language targeting and your location targeting or geolocation targeting. In my next slide, I'm going to talk about flexible bidding strategies. So these apply to other campaign types as well, but there are quite a lot of questions about this in the exam. So do try and do a bit of research if you're not familiar with these before attempting the exam. So there are 4 bidding strategies I'm going to talk through. The first is enhanced CPC. And now this is very much like standard cost per click bidding, but it has the enhancement where Google will automatically adjust your manual CPC bids based on each click's likelihood to result in a conversion. So it will work if you've got conversion tracking enabled, and it will then look at when conversions tend to happen, and it will look at the data it's got from the past, and it will then adjust your manual CPC bid up a little if it thinks it's going to result in a conversion, and down a bit if it thinks it isn't going to result in a conversion. So this can work quite well. The next bidding strategy is target CPA, which is target cost per acquisition. Now this is bidding on Google's aiming to adjust bids to hit a certain cost per acquisition. So you tell Google how much you're willing to pay for a particular action. So it might be for a particular sale, or it might be for a particular lead, so for a phone call or something like that. And Google will then automatically set the bids to help get as many conversions as possible while reaching your average cost per acquisition goal. So it might be that on a CPC, if you're bidding on a standard CPC basis for a particular product or keyword, you might bid £1 for that particular keyword and work out that on average, after 50 clicks, you make a sale. However, this form of bidding is a bit different to that. This is where you tell Google, well, I'm willing to pay up to £40 for someone to make a sale. So if you're willing to pay up to £40, perhaps your product is worth £60 or £70 or £80, so that you know that you're going to make a profitable margin, but it's allowing Google to make decisions based on your target CPA. The next one is the maximize clicks option. So I'm using that with a customer at the moment who's very keen just to build the amount of traffic that's coming to their site. They're not too focused about which type of traffic it is, but they just want as many clicks and visitors and sessions on their site as possible. So this automatically sets bids to help get the most clicks within a target spend amount. So if you've got a particular budget and you want to get as many clicks as you possibly can, this will help adjust your bids in order to do that. The last one is target return on ad spend. This automatically sets your bids to maximize your conversion value while trying to reach an average return on ad spend. It's a little bit like the cost per acquisition, but this is trying to get you a particular return for your ad spend. So if you want to get 20%, 30%, 40% return on the amount you're spending on AdWords, you can set this bidding strategy in order to say, bid in such a way as to get me this much return for every pound that I spend on AdWords. There's some quite good help guidelines about that in the AdWords, in the Partners Help Center, where they give you sort of guides to all the different features for all the different exams. So in the display one, there's quite a good overview of this, and you'll find more resources about it elsewhere on Google. The next bit we're going to talk about is the display planner. So there's quite a few questions about this again, and if you haven't used the display planner, it's worth setting up, if you haven't got one already, a dummy AdWords account that will allow you to sorry, I'm just getting a message saying if I can turn my camera off. So if I do that now, hopefully that will make you be able to hear the sound a bit better. There we are. So I hope that'll make the sound a bit better for you. So the display planner allows you to plan out a display campaign, And it's very much like if you've used the keyword planner before, but for display campaigns. And it gives you ideas about where you might want to show your ads. It gives you ideas about various different options of where your ads can run, bids you might need to pay, how much traffic you're going to get, and will help you sort of just build your display campaign. If you haven't already tried out using it, create a dummy AdWords account that you're not going to activate, and within it just create a display campaign and go and play with a display planner just to see what's available, what the tools are, and what it can bring to you, because it can be quite a useful piece of kit. It generates targeting ideas and impression estimates and historical costs. It also can provide ideas for the display network, targeting methods, impression estimates and historical cost, and estimates on how ideas may perform. As I say, I do recommend trying it out before taking the exam. So next we're going to talk about another tool that Google provides in the display network campaigns to help you with your display network campaigns, which is a thing called the Ad Gallery, which is an ad creation tool. It used to be called the Display Ads Builder tool, and it came about because what Google was facing was a problem that lots of people would have good results advertising on the display network, but many businesses don't have access to graphic designers and people to build image ads and display banners and so on that will give them more success advertising on the display network and doing more brand awareness and awareness building in their campaigns. So a few benefits of it. It allows you to differentiate your products and services. It basically generates image ads for you automatically. It will look through your you set it up to say I want to build a certain type of ad, and it will then give you some different formats and ideas, and you can then customize those ideas to work for your own business or for the business you're advertising. It can lead to more effective campaigns. Having ads built in here rather than just having standard text ads can lead to, if you've got ads using images and interactivity and so on, it can lead to those ads getting a higher click-through rate, for example. The ad templates are free, so one of the things that sometimes works quite well for people who are new to this is you can dip your toe in the water of display advertising using one of these ad formats, which doesn't cost you anything. Experiment with it. They turn out well enough that you get a pretty good idea of how things are going to perform. And then if you decide it's something that you really want to push ahead with, then you might want to bring in a graphic designer to take those ads up to the next level, and perhaps bring in some other ideas and do your ads slightly, even more professionally. But this is a very passable solution and can work really nicely. I've run quite a few campaigns with ads built in here that is absolutely, that they've been pretty effective. The ad templates are all industry standard IAB sizes, so that can be quite helpful too. A few tips when using it: do be explicit about your call to action. When ads are on the display network, people aren't necessarily in buying mode or researching mode. They may be reading about something completely different. So you want to put some sort of call to action on the ad so that people know what you're expecting them to do. So if you're just trying to raise awareness, you might want to put on something like learn more. If you're trying to sell a product, you might want to sort of say something like buy now, special offer on now, something like that will draw them in. Make sure your ad content is balanced, and do try different ideas. As with any text ad on Google, you can always create lots of different variations and then run them, and Google will show them all, and you'll start getting an idea of which things work better than others. Do it, of course, like you would in a text ad again. Include prices, promotions, and exclusions. So put in the things that you do want people to know about your prices and promotions, but you can also exclude things. So very much like the search network, you can actually add negative keywords, or you can exclude particular sites on the internet you don't want your ads to appear on. Make sure you set it up as specifically as you can, because that way you'll get the best results. Of course, do also be aware that mobile advertising, as Google has been telling us over recently, that the mobile opportunity is now here, that more than 50% of all searches on Google are now mobile driven. So we need to make sure that all our ad sizes work for mobile too. And the nice thing about the ad gallery is it makes that very easy to create ads that will work on mobile as well as they will on desktops. Sorry. A few tips for creating effective display ads. Make sure you're using text, image, and color schemes effectively. So don't try not to have sort of really clashing colors, and that's something that's to do with your brand, or try and sort of make ads that are in line with your brand colors and so on. You can always experiment with different ad types and designs. You can adjust the text really easily. So in the ad gallery, you get the chance to adjust different types of text, and you can try out different things and see which calls to action maybe work better than others. Take advantage of the different templates in the ad gallery, and you can also create your own custom images so that you're advertising exactly what you want to show off. Another quite good feature that the gallery can do is it can take your existing text ads and turn those into images and banners. So if you've got an existing text ad that works well, perhaps run it through here and see what comes up, because it might be quite a good source for new display ads. So make sure your call to action is really obvious. One of the nice features people can do is turning it into a button that people can use to click on to make, if your call to action is in a button, people know that that's what they've got to press and that's what they want you to do. Often the ads can look so good on the sites that people don't realize that they are ads. So having some sort of button call to action will mean that they know what they're expected to do and they can click on that and come to your site. And as I said earlier, make sure you include your prices, promotions, and exclusives. As with the search network, on the display network, you have the option to extend your ad with ad extensions. So some manual extensions are app extensions, call extensions, location extensions, review extensions, site link extensions, and call out extensions. There are also some automated ones which exist. These can work really well. So for example, if you're trying to get lots of phone calls, having a call extension can work. Or if you're particularly targeting a campaign in a local area, making sure you have location extensions to demonstrate how local your business is to the people who are looking at these ads can help sort of enhance your ad really nicely. A few things. I don't know how many of you are aware about mobile app install campaigns. So again, these can run across the display network. So if you've got a new mobile app you're trying to promote, using mobile app install campaigns can help you to do that. These are geared towards getting more people to download a particular app, and AdWords can help with customizing targeting, keywords, and ads. Again, like any other ad format, you want to gauge how it's performed, and you can do this by tracking the number of installs that app has had as a conversion. One of the things to be aware of, again, this might be useful for the exam, is that you need the app package name, so Android and/or the app ID in iOS of the promoted app to start promoting an app. That's something that obviously you would need in order to tell Google which app it is that you want to advertise. Something you may not have come across or may not have had as much experience of is dynamic and lightbox display ads. Again, there are quite a few questions about these in the exam, so do make sure you've had a quick read up on them before you take the exam, or have the page about them open when you're doing it. So you've got the option of creating dynamic display ads, which are personalized ads that show products that users viewed on your site. So that can work really well as part of dynamic remarketing. So you create a feed of all the products or services along with the attributes, for example, like unique IDs of the products you're advertising. So you can tell Google, when someone comes and views this particular product, show them on another site on the Google Display Network when they're reading another site, an ad with a picture of, for example, of that image that they were looking at. This is something that you've possibly seen yourselves when you're browsing the internet, and it can work very powerfully. So that's something that can work well. They lead to really much higher conversion rates often. Much higher conversion rates often. You can also create, as part of those, text, image, and HTML5 ads to showcase product or services from the feed. HTML5, the thing to remember for the exam is that it's really easy to update and it doesn't require plugins. So unlike Flash, which is now sort of being superseded. HTML5 is really easy to update, and you don't need a Flash plugin or any sort of plugin for HTML5 ads to work really well. There are preferred layouts, which include product carousels and cropping your images to fit the ads, and lots of different formats and layouts which work particularly well. With Lightbox ads, these are a suite of interactive, rich media ad formats. Now, a Lightbox ad is charged at the bottom of the page here. There are two different bidding options for Lightbox ads. One is viewable cost per 1,000 impressions, VCPM. We've talked about CPM already. And this means that impressions are charged when 50% of the ad's pixels are visible for more than 1 second. So if you create a Lightbox ad and you choose CPM, VCPM bidding, your ad will run shown whenever it's shown, you will be charged for that impression, as long as the ad's pixels are visible for more than 1 second. Users can interact with these ads, and the ad can be a video carousel, or it can be an interactive game, or a catalogue, for example. Another thing, so the other sort of form of bidding is to take advantage of the other things that people can do with ads. So either you can pay for them to see the ads, or you can pay when people engage with those ads, and that's known as CPE bidding, or cost per engagement bidding. For CPE bidding, engagements are charged when the user engages with the ad. For expandable ad spaces, user engagement means that the user hovers, clicks, or taps to extend, and the ad has time to load and be seen. I'm just checking to see if everyone seems to be hearing okay, and I think it seems to be better since I turned off the mic video. So if not, though, please do let me know. Just a few things about the editorial and professional requirements. So Google, as with all ads, has got a few editorial and professional requirements for the ads. The ads need to be clear, they need to be professional, and they need to be useful. So within that, there are some more sort of specifics. So, for example, there can't be an unclear promotion or unclear relevance, or they must be useful and not difficult or frustrating to navigate. We've all seen those ads which, they jump around the screen and you have to try and catch them to turn them off, or they appear in really awkward positions so that you can't get rid of them. And these ads shouldn't be like that. They ought to conform to style, spelling, and grammatical rules, as with all ads. If your ad violates the policies, the ad can be disapproved and potentially the domain can be disabled. Do try and make sure if you're setting these up, that you do conform to the policies. If an ad gets disapproved, to fix it, you need to edit it to meet the requirements and resave the ad, and that will resubmit it back to Google for it to be re-reviewed and hopefully approved the next time round. Lastly, just to be aware, they mustn't mimic function that they don't do. So you can't. An example might be that you're an airlines ad and an airlines advertiser, and you create an ad that makes it look as though you're at a you offer listings of sort of flight arrivals and flight departures, and so someone clicks on it expecting to be able to interact with the ad and see flight arrivals and flight departures, but they can't. They actually end up just going to your website or doing something else. That would fall foul of Google's rules on not mimicking a function that they don't actually do, because you're inciting a click basically by pretending that your ad can do something, but it actually can't. Another thing just to make sure you don't do is make sure that you don't put value track tags, which are ways of tracking these ads, and make sure they're placed in the URLs, not in the ads themselves. That's something that Google will disapprove an ad for. So coming up to the end of this section, we're now going to have a quick sample exam question again. So the question is, what would you recommend to a client who wants to target a very specific audience? For example, those who might buy a high-end mountain bike. Now we're going to come on and talk about this targeting in a little bit more detail in a minute, but the answers are, so hopefully the answer will become more clear later, but so you can target an affinity audience of people in the cycling category. You could target the key phrase mountain maps. You could do some really broad targeting, or you could target people who've already visited the website before. Now the answer to this one is number one, target an affinity audience of people in the cycling category. So we'll talk about this in more detail in a minute, but we have one of the targeting options is by targeting an audience who have a strong affinity for something that you are trying to sell. So, and there is a category in that of cycling. So one of the good ways to recommend, one of the things you might recommend to this client is to use that sort of targeting to target those people. Right, the next section is about showing your ads on the display network. This next slide is something that's quite important to get the hang of. So when you're targeting different options on the display network, you've got lots of different types of ways of targeting your ad. So you can target it by, you can let Google, if you can do automatic placements where you say to Google, this is my ad and this is the sorts of things I'm interested in, and you're going to let Google find the right sites for your ads to show on. So that's a very automated way to run it. It's quick and easy to set up. The other thing you could do, though, is to manage it a bit more carefully, is do manage placements, where you choose keywords for a keyword search campaign. In a display campaign, you would choose the particular sites that you want your ads to show on. So you can even do it down to particular placements of particular sites. So it might be on a bigger site that you choose a particular category of that site, or a particular, if it's a newspaper site, you might choose the sports section, or you might choose the travel section. Now, when you set up all these different targeting options, that you've got the options of either targeting and bidding those, or you can bid on particular ones. So say, for example, you were setting up a campaign and it was targeting, it was new baby. Now, you might want to choose specific ads. You might want to choose a demographic to target. So it might be new parents, and or generally parents, and you might want to say you might want it to show on particular sites. Now you could have, so that's two different targeting options. You might want to choose the sites that they want to show on, and you might want to target the demographic of parents. Now you could choose to target and bid both of those demographics, both of those targeting options, and that would mean that your ad would only show when it was on a particular placement that you'd chosen, and when Google was confident that the person who was seeing the ad was a parent. Now you can see that quite quickly limits the number of impressions that your ad might be going to get. So it can be very powerful, but it also can really limit the amount of traffic your particular ads are going to get. So another option you can do is you can target and bid on some parts, but it might be that for example, if you're showing on these parenting websites, that you might want to target and bid on those particular websites, but you might want to only bid on the demographic of parents, because it might be that there are other people reading the parenting websites who may not be parents. Google doesn't think that they're parents, but they might be grandparents, they might be friends, they might be other people who might be keen to buy your particular product for babies, even though they're not actually parents themselves. So you might want to bid up when that is a parent, so you do bid only for parents, and you would say increase my bid by 10 or 15% when it's a parent who's reading a parenting site. But if it's not a parent, but that person is still on a parenting site, you might want to say, well, still show my ad to those people, because they may well be relevant and likely to turn into a sale. So you've got lots of different options. So you can, and again, another good idea is to go into AdWords and start creating a display campaign and have a look at all the different options that you can try out, and it will really help you get a feel for what's possible. So just to go through some of these points, placements are locations on the display network where ads can be shown. If you know of a website that your customers visit, add it to a managed placement. If you choose automatic placements, you allow Google to select relevant sites across the network, and they do that based on they'll look at the keywords of a particular site, and if they match perhaps the keyword list you've added to your campaign, they will show your ad in that location. Something else you should be aware of is the DoubleClick Ad Exchange, which is a partnership with Google Display Network for buying and selling advertising. So this DoubleClick was bought by Google quite a few years ago, but it's an ad exchange which allows sort of historically large brand advertisers to buy ad slots through an ad exchange. And now Google owns DoubleClick. AdWords advertisers have the option to advertise through DoubleClick, although usually for the standard AdWords advertisers, they tend to do it just through advertising on the Google Display Network. The DoubleClick is another market for advertisers that shows ads to a wider audience. There might be ad sites that are members of DoubleClick Ad Exchange, but are not members of the Google Display Network, so it allows you to reach a different audience. One thing to note, if one of your display ad groups isn't serving due to incorrect targeting and bid settings, so this can happen, that you set up targeting and bid, so this top option here, if you add in too many options in there, your ad simply won't run, because to get someone who's on a parenting website, who is a parent, who is in a particular age range, who's got an affinity category of such and such, and for the site to be a particular topic, if you've targeted and bid for all those 5 different options, then it may be that there's only one person every 5 days who fits into that criteria, and therefore your ad is just not going to get any exposure. So if you find that that's a problem and you've made that mistake, and the way to fix that, this is just something that comes up in the exam, so it might be worth being aware of. To fix that, you should set all the targeting for the ad group to bid only, and at least one targeting method to target and bid, and that will mean that your ad is at least got a targeting option, and that the other options are just bidding options. So you're bidding up or down for particular categories within that targeting option, but for the ad to show, it doesn't have to hit every one of your targeting criteria in order to do so. Everyone doing okay with the sound now? Good. I'm just having a quick check back to make sure there's no messages from you. So one of the things you might be thinking is, how do I prevent my ad from showing in places where I don't want it to show? So just like in search campaigns, you can use negative keywords to do this. So you can prevent ads being shown to people by searching for or visiting websites about things that you don't offer, by adding in negative keywords into your display campaign. You can also show ads to people who are more likely to click them. So you can add keywords to your display campaign, which will help Google to target your ads more effectively towards the group that you are trying to reach. What makes a good negative keyword? Well, choose search terms that are similar to your keywords but signal that people are looking for a different product. So say, for example, there's a classic one of Java. You're selling Java coffee, and you're getting a lot of clicks on ads about the technology Java code or JavaScript. Then you can maybe exclude. You could do it with negative keywords, where you might exclude the word script, you might exclude the word technology, you might exclude lots of other things, or you can actually negatively target sites about a particular topic. So another way of targeting your ad is by topic. So you can say, show my ad on sites on this particular topic, but equally you can use that as a negative, as a sort of exclusion technique, where you can exclude sites on a particular topic from your campaign settings. Of course, as with any other campaign, you can set the language targeting of the campaign in the campaign settings. So language targeting allows you to choose the language of sites that you'd like the ads to appear on. So say, for example, you have a French video and it's showing to people where it doesn't have any subtitles, and it's going to a French landing page in French, then you might want to set that campaign up only to target the French language. So only people who've got their language settings to French will be able to see your ad. So for custom ad scheduling, this again is something that's common on other sorts of features as well, but on other sorts of campaigns as well. But you have the option to target your ads based on various different ad schedules, or mobile options, or time of day, or actually on the display network you get extra options. So these ones are the same as the search network, so you can do day or time plotting. So say, for example, you've got a client who gets most phone calls at a particular time of day, or seems to get most sales at a particular time of day. They've got a limited budget. You want to spend that budget at the right time. You can set up in the ad schedule the particular times that you want that ad to show on, and you can either schedule it so the ads only appear then, or you can schedule it so you pay more for ads at that particular time of day and less for ads at other less profitable times of day. It's also where you set up frequency capping. Now, frequency capping is something which I'll talk about on the next slide, but it basically allows you to say, only show my ads to a particular person a certain number of times. So you don't want to show your ad over and over again to somebody. In the display network, there are some advanced mobile and tablet options which allow you to specify a particular operating system or a specific network carrier, so Vodafone or O2 or whatever it is, and specific devices even. So you've got more option in here where you get to see the different particular type of targeting that you might want to set up. Let's talk about the display network tab. So when you create a display campaign, you'll get a new tab that appears in your tabs along your AdWords interface. The display network tab is useful in determining where ads are shown on the display network. So if you click on that, you'll be able to see lots of different information. So you'll be able to see a summary, which shows you roughly where the clicks are coming from, or how the ad is doing. You'll then be able to see that if you've set up display keywords, you'll be able to see how those are performing. If you've added placements, you'll see how those particular managed placements are performing, or you'll see the automatic placements. And again, bear this in mind for the exam, because this is where you'll click on the placements tab in order to see which sites your ads have been shown on if you're using automatic placements. So when Google chooses which sites to show your ads on, or even if you're using topic targeting or various others where you don't necessarily know the sites your ads will show on, you will see those under this placements report. If you're bidding on topics or doing particular things on particular topics, you'll see those in here. Interest and remarketing, again, you'll get your statistics about that in there. And you'll also see the demographics. So there are demographics by age, by gender, by parental status that you can bid on or target as part of the AdWords display network. Just to come back to frequency capping. Frequency capping in the display campaign is something unique to the display network, and it allows you to control how many impressions a specific user sees over a given time of your ad on the display network. So here's another, just to round out this section, here's another sample exam question. So is it true or is it false that frequency capping is not available on the search network? So if we just flick back to here, this is only set up on the display network. So the answer to this question would be false. So let's talk about reaching a particular audience on the display network. So remarketing is something that can work really well on the display network. So if you've got someone to come and see your ad through a search campaign, for example, they didn't buy that time, you can go back and remarket to those people while they're on the display network, while they're elsewhere, and remind them to come back and make that purchase or sign up for whatever it was you wanted them to sign up for, make contact. There are quite a few different ways of remarketing. You can do standard remarketing, dynamic remarketing, remarketing for mobile apps, remarketing lists for search ads, and video remarketing. You can also tailor your ads, so you can tailor your ads so that they scale with your product or services. You can use the high performance layouts. There's the option to do real-time bid optimization, and you can use the simple but powerful feeds that allow you to say to Google, well, when someone comes and looks at a particular product on my site, build an ad dynamically that will, with that product as the centerpiece, that will then show to that person when they're elsewhere on the display network. To create a feed for your dynamic display ads, this works when ads are shown to people who visited your website and details about the items that they have viewed are pulled from your feed into these ads. So retailers can leverage the Google Merchant Center feeds for dynamic remarketing. There are also options to do video remarketing within it, where you can remarket to people who've interacted with your videos on YouTube or your YouTube channel. And it just is a very powerful way of advertising, particularly across the display network. To create a feed, you create a feed of all the product or services along with their attributes like unique IDs or images and prices. And when the ads are shown to people who visited your site, details about the item they've viewed are pulled from your feed into the ads. There are obviously different types of feed for different business types. So an airline might create a flights feed. A merchant might create a shopping feed. People who visited the airline's website might then see ads tailored to the flights they searched for or viewed or started to book. I know I've certainly encountered those when I've been researching flights. You can also add particular audiences to ad groups. And so you can reach people who have an interest in your brand or product. So you can use the affinity audience or you can actually set up custom affinity audiences, and you can use remarketing. So affinity audiences are audiences with specific interests, such as skiing or mountain biking, or select from these audiences to reach potential customers and make them aware of your businesses. And a custom affinity audience allows an advertiser to dig deeper into an audience. So instead of reaching runners, for example, a running shoe company can reach a marathon runner. So you can get really specific about the particular people you are reaching. You can also target based on demographics such as age and gender and parental status, and use that as a means of targeting your ads, or bidding on your ads, bidding up potentially for some of those that you think are more valuable and bidding down for those that are less valuable. So just to go through quickly how to measure, how to increase brand, we're going to talk more about measuring and optimizing performance on the display network. So how to increase brand awareness. So if you're an advertiser with a new product or service, you can reach people and raise awareness of this new brand or new product by using the building brand awareness setting when you're creating the campaign. This, for example, you might use placement targeting to reach relevant audiences. If you're interested in people seeing your ad, you can build more positive brand associations, you can increase brand loyalty, you can motivate customers. So this is very much sort of, I guess, what I would call old school advertising, where like TV ads or radio ads, where you just want people to remember the brand, so that when they're in front of making a purchase, and they see two different brands, they remember your brand better, so that they are more likely to buy that product. For this strategy, you'll probably be bidding on a CPM basis, a cost per thousand impression basis, because you just want people to see the ad. Clicks are a bonus, but it's the impressions and people seeing your brand and remembering it that are the most important metrics. If you're an advertiser who's more interested in measuring sales and conversions rather than brand awareness, you can use the report editor to create tables and charts in AdWords by campaign, by placement, by ad group, by keyword. And this allows you to see which particular forms of advertising, parts of your display campaign are doing well and generating the sales and conversions that you would like, and compared to which ones are not doing so well, and which ones you would rather sort of scale back on. So you can use reports perhaps to find out where your ads are appearing, or you can track managed placements and automatic placements. If you're running in Lightbox ads, you might want to track the mouse over rate, for example. You can also check how engaged users are by looking at the click-through rate. How often do people click on your ads? If you've got a good strong call to action, it's likely you'll get quite a high click-through rate because people are wanting to come and find out what you're offering and find out more. You can also track view-through conversions. So view-through conversions are when someone sees your ad on the display network, and then later on they don't make a purchase, but they then come back to your site and make a purchase. So what Google can do is notify you that that's happened through the view-through conversion column, and they will say this ad generated a sale after someone saw an impression of your ad on the display network. So again, because it may be that people need to see your ads a couple of times before they're willing to make a purchase, and often if you can't see the conversions happening after that, you might think that this isn't very valuable. But actually, if you see the view-through conversions are working, then you know that while it's early in the process, the view-through conversions, the impressions are happening early on in the process. So you may be attributing that sale to another channel, but actually those sales are coming about because that person perhaps saw your ad for the first time on the display network. When you're doing all this analysis, Google recommends, again, there's something to remember for the exam, that advertisers should wait 2 to 3 weeks before analysing a display campaign's performance in order to ensure a collection of enough statistical data. So before that, it might be that there are different trends causing different things to happen with your ads that are not actually due to the campaign's performance. So if you're advertising before Christmas and after Christmas, you'll get very, very different results. So do give it 2 to 3 weeks to gather the data so you've got sufficient data to make a good decision. So if you're measuring sales and performance, you can use I'm going to call it the new report center, but it's a relatively new report center in AdWords to build reports that will show you all. So if it's AdWords conversions, you might want to see how many clicks your ads got. You might want to see how many times people have called your business or how many times people have made a purchase. So for these things that you're interested in, the statistics you might want to measure are the numbers of conversions and cost per conversion, conversion rate, and keyword conversion data. So you can build a report with all of this information in it that allows you to measure and optimize the performance of these particular campaigns. Let's move on. So if we're talking about optimizing campaigns, there are quite a few things you can do. One thing is making sure that you're building ads in HTML5 instead of in Flash. Flash is really becoming a sort of an outdated technology, and HTML5 is what Google much prefers. Do make sure your campaign is well organized with a good plan. If you think about your campaign in advance, think about which sort of topics you're going to target, which sort of placements you might want to run, what sort of ads you're going to show people, what are you trying to encourage them to do? Are you trying to get them to just know that your brand exists, or are you trying to get them to actually make a purchase there and then? So thinking about all these things and planning them out ahead of schedule will allow you to make better decisions. Write great, compelling ads. Make sure your ad rotation options are set to maximize your any given goal. We'll talk about that in a minute in a bit more detail. You need to monitor and adjust your bids as you would for any other AdWords campaign. So as you see whether things are working out. So for example, you can see the different conversion rates over here. It might be that the cost per conversion for this campaign is really low. So is it worth bidding up for that one because you might get extra conversions at still a very low rate? This cost per conversion is pretty high. Is that okay? And if not, perhaps we need to bid down a bit on that so that the cost per conversion comes down, hopefully without penalising the volume of conversions. Of course, you want to make sure you've installed conversion tracking and keep an eye on it. And as with everything, testing is really important. So testing different ad types and comparing performance is vital if you want to do well. I said I was going to talk more about types of ad rotation. So there are two types of targeting. You can do conservative when you're creating your display campaign. It will ask you, do you want to do conservative targeting, and that will be by default. So if that's where you need to maintain current cost per customer, sort of cost per acquisition goals, or if you're happy with how things are going on the CPA front, you can use aggressive targeting, which is when you want to get as many conversions as possible, and Google will then spread the reach of your ads further so that you get more likely, hopefully, get more conversions. You've got two options for these sorts of campaigns. You can do target CPA bidding, we talked about this earlier, where you're maximizing conversions, and Google will then use historical data to find optimal equivalent ad CPCs. Or you can do a pay-per-click without manual adjustments. Sorry, the CPA bid works on a pay-per-click basis. You don't get the chance to manually adjust your bids. And you need to be able to run the CPA bidding, you need to have a minimum number of conversions to start using it. So again, that's something else. To set up CPA account, the particular campaign needs to have generated a certain number of conversions already, and that's just so that Google knows whether your campaign, so it has some data on which to decide whether to bid up or down, or whether to show your ad or not, in order to get a certain number of, in order to be able to reach your target cost per acquisition bid. Coming to the end now, so I'm just going to go over a few logistics for doing the exam. So the exam, as I said at the beginning, is 2 hours long, 120 minutes. It's got 100 questions, which is quite a high number compared to some of the other exams. So you need to keep going through the questions quite quickly in order to get to the end before the exam time runs out. You need an 80% pass rate, an 80% score to pass. I'd say once you've done enough revision, a lot of the questions are quite similar. So once you've got the hang of some basic concepts, things like frequency capping, things like affinity audiences, and so on, you'll find that the same question arises in slightly different formats multiple times. So that can be quite helpful as long as you've done the research to start with. The exam will be valid for 12 months after you've taken it. So, and actually, once you've passed it once, you'll find it's much easier to go back and retake it. And once you've done it once, while things do change with Google quite a lot, it is quite a slow process actually in terms of how often things change here. So things you've known already won't change, and you should still be able to pass the exam a year later with relative ease. So for additional information, one of the things when you're going to go and take the exam, go to google.com/partners to take the exam and become certified. So if you're not already signed up for that, you'll need to sign up as a partner and link in your account so that you take the exam within that particular account, and then you're able to pass. Then you're able to do the exam within that account, and then that exam will stay linked to your account. The AdWords Help Center is obviously a great place to do some revision, but actually, if you're going to do just sort of straight revision for the exam, the display study guide within the Google Partners, where you go to take the exam, you'll see that they have the study guide there. You can actually download an entire PDF of it, I think. But even just having it open, because you can always search for questions as they come up in the exam, and you might find an article that's going to help you out while you're doing it. Remember, in order to become certified, you must pass the fundamentals exam first. Well, not even first, you must pass it as well as one other exam, such as this one, the display exam. Any other questions? If you want to ask any questions, please do come, and I can stick around for a little while to answer any questions in the Hangout. And if you just type them in, I'll do my best to answer them. Or if you don't get to think of it now, feel free to post a question, and I'll come back later on and answer it when you've thought of it as I can. And please do let us know how you get on. It'd be great to hear how many of you are going to get on and pass the exam. Perhaps the best time to do it is now. Go and have an attempt at it now, and while you're in the mode thinking about it all. And I'll wish you all a lot of luck. I'll stay here for another minute or two just in case anybody is wanting to ask any questions. Should also say I'm sorry for any sound problems, but hopefully once I turn the video off, that was resolved. Okay, one more refresh, and then I will. So it looks like there aren't going to be any more questions. I will say goodbye then, and thank you all very much for attending this, and I hope it was useful, and good luck passing the exam. Thank you. Goodbye.